Hello. I am going to tell you about some Python 3.8 codes and basics if you want to learn to code a little bit. So, one thing you can do is print statements. And print statements, what you want to print is it will print in the shell, it will put information inside of these parentheses and those double quotes. So, like, say, hi, viewers. And then we run it. And you can just name it anything. I'll just name it coding Python. And see, it just puts hi viewers on the shell where it is. If you have these double quotes, then it will be put as a string, and a string is basically a value of letters or numbers together. Like, okay, another thing about Python that will be pretty important is variables. Like, what if we say a equals 89. So basically, and we have another variable saying b equals 54. And then we want to print a plus b. What will happen is a contains 89 inside of it, and b contains 54 inside of it. So when it prints, it will print the sum of these values. And it gives us 143. Okay? Variables don't have to only store numbers. They can also store strings, what I was just telling you about. Like, hello, viewers. Now, if we say print, if you want to print variables, you don't use double quotes. So we have print A, and inside of it says hello, viewers. So when we run this, it will have hello, viewers, because there's a string inside of it. Okay, so that's a little bit of so that's some coding things. Another one is, let's say you want to ask the person in the shell to give it a number. So inside we can have a variable saying ask equals int input give me a random number. We want two parentheses, one for the one before the input and one before that telling it what you want to ask them or tell them. So now if we run it, it will tell you to give it a random number. We say 6, and then it didn't print anything because we didn't have a print statement. But now ask contains the variable 6. Well, ask is the variable containing the letter 6. The number 6. Okay, this can be helpful for asking like age and different things like that. An important thing about Python that you'll always use are if statements. If statements are statements asking Python if a certain value is something, then do something. So it's kind of hard to explain like that. So basically, let's say if ask equals 6. Well, in print statements, if you want to ask if it has an equal value, then you say if ask equals 6, colon, enter, print, wow, you got my number. Okay, when you run that, if you put in the number 5, it won't print anything, because it doesn't equal 6. Okay, now, if we run it, and then we put in 6 instead, then it will say, wow, you got my number, because it equals 6. So, that's what if statements are. Another thing you can do with if statements are, if after you put an if statement, you can put in else statement. Else is basically like, if ask isn't 6, and it's something else, then you print something, oops, you got it wrong. Basically, I'm going to run it and show you what I mean. So now we got 5. It says, oops, you got wrong. So basically, there's an if statement saying, if the value that we're asking is equal to 6, then we print that that's the number. And if it isn't equal to 6, then we print then that it's wrong. That's pretty simple, right? What if you want to ask that if it's something else, if it's not that and it's a certain other thing, and not just anything other than that? Then you can change else. You can also do elif, ask equals 5. Then you can type, wow, that's my other number. And then at the end, you can combine that with an else statement saying, oops, you got it wrong. Okay, so we try writing 6. Well, you got my number. If we try writing 5, wow, that's my other number. And if we write something other than that, it will say, oops, you got it wrong. So that's a lot with if, elif, and else statements. How about loops? So, loops are actually lists first. Lists are actually, we're going to do loops. So, loops are taped in this way for I in range. So, I is going to be the variable of the loop. So, you can make that anything that you want. It will just be the variable for holding the value of the loop for each run. So I'll just use I so that I can tell the difference. And then in range and 0 to 5. So this is basically saying that it wants, okay, so ask equals int input give a number. Okay, so basically, an if statement, a for loop will basically have these two numbers inside of these parentheses, and it will have 0 to 5. So that means it will start at 0, and then it will ask to give a number 5 times. So we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, that will just run from 0 to 5, and it will run 5 times, and it will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will be asking it to do everything inside of it 5 times. This is really important. Okay, next is lists. Lists are they're kind of table that store multiple values. So inside, so to make start a list, you have the name of the list, and then you write equals brackets. And if you want to start the list having values inside, then you can use numbers and start it with numbers. But we're going to make this an empty list. And then to later append things into the lists, you go f.append ask. So now we're appending a certain variable. And then at the end we can say print f. Again, lists are kind of like variables, so we wouldn't need double quotes because it's not a string, so it will print the list. Okay, so if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then inside of the list we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the way to tell a list to give a number. So if we print f0, basically what that will do is it will print basically what that will do is it will print the first number in the list, because lists, they have 1, they start at, so they basically define a position in each, the number inside of the brackets define a position in each of the list. So 1, but lists positions start with 0. So this would be 0, position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3, and position 4. Okay. Len f is used for putting len and then the list name inside of it will tell you how many values are inside of the list. So right here, there are 5 values inside of the list. That's pretty important for searching through if you want to, such as putting len f in here, then it will go through all the amount of time, as many numbers as there are in len f. Yeah. And then, another thing is min f. Min f will basically print the smallest value inside of the list. So it was 1. And then, max f prints the largest value inside of the list, which is 5. Okay. So that's basically some basic stuff about Python that you should know if you're starting it. There are also functions. Okay, so I'll tell you functions and then the video will end. Functions is basically values that store in code, and then you can call that code to run at certain times. So the DEF stands for define f of x. So f is what we'll call the function, and x is going to be the value inside of it. And then we'll say print x. Okay, so now if we call the function f of 5, it will print 5 because that's the value x has right now. See here. Okay. You can put in other stuff and tell it values like h equals 4. And then we want to print h times x. Then we run. We get 20. I hope this video taught you something. Bye.